raised, basically again to seek clarification from you, Mr. Speaker. You had indicated earlier, and I know that we are likely to go to the Committee of the Whole House on the finance bill. That's one of the reasons we are really sitting on that day, on Tuesday. But also you indicated last evening that those who want to make amendments should have their amendments in by 1 p.m. today. Mr. Speaker, the clarification I was seeking, normally we have more time. Why are we limiting today if the Committee of the Whole House is likely to be on Tuesday as you had indicated? Because one would have thought that even up to tomorrow, midday, would still be adequate. That's the clarification I needed. But otherwise, Mr. Speaker, I support the Tuesday sitting.
Before I put the question, Honorable Nyikal, I have made a pronouncement about 4 times on this floor that those who have amendments file them by 1 o'clock today. For the simple reason that 1, the bill has attracted a lot of contentious arguments and proposals. 2, the committee itself in its report has recommended a myriad of amendments to the bill. 3, we want to have sufficient time for amendments that may be identical or overlapping to be harmonized. And we can't do that if we are constrained with time. 4, if you are speaking for yourself, you are the sort of member of parliament who I know would draft an amendment before the bill is even moved. So I don't know how you want extra time. My direction that all amendments be filed by 1 o'clock stands. I don't think it's injurious to any member. I don't think it oppresses any member. And since the time I started making the pronouncement, no member has raised any reservation, Dr. Nyikal. And I believe your reservation is not only unhelpful, but will just draw us back to management of House business that will not be helpful. Yes, yes, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I wanted to add to your 4 points.
Yes.
5, since you got up to 4, is that this is a money bill. And being a money bill in line with Article 114 and all standing orders, all the amendments that members will be proposing must be shared with the National Treasury for concurrence. And therefore, if we allow more time, then there will be no time for the back and forth between the National Assembly and Treasury. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
You should actually appreciate the Speaker, because ordinarily, the office that receives amendments will just tell you it has been closed. At least I've given you sufficient notice on the direction of time. Thank you. Yes, Okello? Let's not eat into debating time. Yes. Give Okello the mic.
Honorable Speaker, I've got a question related to that, whereas I also support the issue of IBC that needs to be fast-tracked based on the fact that at least not less than 2 constituencies are now disenfranchised as a result of
Jared Okello, that is a moot point. Your own leader has said this here 5 times.
Yeah, I've got a question.
I don't know why you should repeat it.
I'm coming to a question, Honorable
Take
Speaker.
your seat. If you want to use up your leader's powers, the Speaker will not assist you on that. Honorable members, I now put the question, which is that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 33C, this House resolves to hold a morning sitting on Tuesday, 25th June 2024, commencing at 9:30 a.m. for purposes of considering priority business. As members of that opinion say aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, the Finance Bill, National Assembly Bill number 30 of 2024, resumption of debate.
Yes, Honorable Wandai. Give him the why his mic is I'm told your mic is malfunctioning. Put where Kainan is.
Yes, Honorable Speaker, sorry. Honorable Speaker, I've got an issue I need to raise now before we can proceed with the debate that was going on yesterday. Honorable Speaker, my attention has been drawn to a letter purportedly emanating from the Cabinet Secretary for National Treasury. I had dated 19th June, that was yesterday, and addressed to the Clerk of the National Assembly. It's also copied to the Right Honorable Speaker. And it's a letter concerning request for the advisory on conclusion of supply and ways and means process by the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, going through this letter in a nutshell, really, in summary, the National Treasury CS is purporting to direct this House that, and I want just to read some paragraph here, that we further note that following the ongoing debate on the Finance Bill 2024, should the Finance Bill 2024 be approved as proposed by the National Treasury, the National Assembly can proceed with the consideration of the appropriations bill as published. However, if the revenue-raising measures contained in the Finance Bill are not approved by the National Assembly, there will be a likely revenue shortfall of approximately Kenya shillings 200 billion. In order to remain within the provisions of the law, I'm just paraphrasing, we propose the following measures, and so on and so forth. Honorable Speaker, first and foremost, the Cabinet Secretary is treading on very slippery grounds, and indeed dangerous grounds. First, by purporting to direct the House on what it's supposed to do in its legislative role. Two, is also anticipating debate, because as far as I'm aware, we are still at the stage of debating this bill. It is not up the duty of anybody out there to start anticipating how the bill will go. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, Article 221 of the Constitution, if you can listen to, if just pay me attention. Article 221 of the Constitution. At Article 6, it says that when the estimates of national government expenditure and the estimates of expenditure for the judiciary and Parliament have been approved by the National Assembly, they shall be included in an appropriation bill which shall be introduced into the National Assembly to authorize withdrawal from the consolidatory fund, and so on and so forth. That is the Constitution. But if you go further to the Public Finance Management Act, Section 40, subsection 5, it says, and I want just to read quickly, that any of the recommendations made by the relevant committee of the National Assembly or adopted by the National Assembly among other things, ensure that the total amount of revenue raised is consistent with the approved fiscal framework and the Division of Revenue Act. What am I saying? If you read the Constitution at Article 221(5), together with the Public Finance Management Act, Section 40, Honorable Speaker, subsection 5, you arrive at the conclusion that the appropriations bill can only be informed by the estimates, not by the finance bill, Honorable Speaker. That the appropriations bill can only flow or emanate from the estimates that we have actually approved last week also in this House. So what, therefore, is the CS purporting to say here? He's saying that if we don't approve the finance bill as in the form it originated from, I think, National Treasury, we shall have, therefore, to review or change the appropriations bill to conform with the finance bill as passed. Honorable Speaker, my submission is that it is the bill. First and foremost, we need to know from the chair of the Committee on Finance. Because the work of the Committee on Finance is to look for ways to raise money to finance the budget that has been passed. Are they saying that they were unable to look for money to finance the budget that we passed last week? If so, the logical thing, Honorable Speaker, is to do a supplementary budget. That is the only logical thing, not to do what the CS is purporting to direct, Honorable Speaker. I would want, at the very least, that you direct that this letter be withdrawn by the National Treasury. And secondly, to compel him to commit, not to attempt, now or in the future, to try to dictate to this House in the manner it's supposed to conduct his business. I submit, Honorable Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Let me thank the Leader of Majority for raising this particular issue about this letter. But, Honorable Speaker, the Minority Leader, sorry. Honorable Speaker, you know, they say any name can raise a baby. And today you are the majority, tomorrow you can be the minority. There is absolutely nothing wrong with me, the slip of the tongue, referring to the Honorable Pio Wandai as the leader of majority. At times I've had people, the slip of the tongue, refer to Junet as a majority whip. At times I am referred to as a minority leader, majority whip. Any name is a name, provided we do what we are here to do. And Honorable Pio will tell you, in the last parliament, when we were with him here, the majority side, that was Jubilee, became the minority and had to depend on the minority side in its own government to, to pretend to be the majority. The leader of majority then, the Honorable Kimunya, the last 2 years, was the leader of the majority, but was actually a leader of the minority from the majority side. Because the Honorable Aden Duale, who was a ranking member like the Honorable John Buddy, was the leader of the majority on the majority side. But moving on, Honorable Speaker, I was thanking the Honorable Pio for raising this issue because it's important that we all get to an understanding, not just of the import of this letter, but the import of all the proposed amendments that we will do to the finance bill, Honorable Speaker. And it's good that when you are responding to the Honorable Nyikal, you did point out some of those issues. And principally, Honorable Speaker, the last point that I added, that this being a money bill, we must get the concurrence of the National Treasury. And there is reason as to why the drafters of our Constitution, Article 114, put that particular provision of concurrence with the National Treasury. Honorable Speaker, if you read that letter, it points to provisions of the law as it is. Professor Ndungu, who assigned this letter, is not referring to anything that is outside of the law and the provisions of our Constitution. He refers to Section 39(4)(c) of the PFM Act, which requires that any increase in expenditure in a proposed appropriation is balanced by a reduction in expenditure in another proposed appropriation. Honorable Speaker, he goes on to quote Section 45 of the PFM Act and other sections of the PFM Act that indicate that if we are to reduce the proposed revenue estimates, Honorable Speaker, then concurrently, and I said it on Tuesday, something must give in. If we reduce taxes that are proposed to be the revenue-raising measures to finance the budget that we have adopted, then we must find a way of either reducing expenditure, the expenditure side, because if you don't do so, what you will do is increase the fiscal deficit. It is this House, Honorable Speaker, and I was hoping the Honorable Njuguna Ndung'u had pointed to it, and I see he hadn't, that we passed a debt ceiling in this House. We cannot go beyond that which we have passed in this House. The National Treasury cannot borrow beyond a certain point, a ceiling that we have set by law in this House. And therefore, if we're asking that let us reduce the revenues, but don't touch the expenditure side, what we are doing is simply telling the National Treasury, increase the fiscal deficit against the law. And we cannot act against the law. I know we are the lawmakers, but we are not allowed by the Constitution to act ultra vires the Constitution. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, what the Cabinet Secretary, it could be a preemptive. It could be preemptive that I want to agree with the Honorable Appeal. It is preempting debate, but the Honorable Njuguna Ndung'u, CS Njuguna Ndung'u, is not engaging in debate. This is an advisory opinion to us, reminding us that we need to abide by the Constitution and by our own laws. Honorable Speaker, the leader of minority spoke to the need, and he has asserted that the right thing, and he said it so emphatically you would want to believe him, that the right thing to do is to do a supplementary budget. That is the wrong thing to do. It is the wrong thing to do, Honorable Speaker, because you cannot begin from a mistake and say now we will break the law at this particular stage, then we will fix it with a supplementary budget. A supplementary budget should only come in once we have first, in the first instance, bound by what is provided for in the law. We have not burst our fiscal deficit as stipulated under our PFM Act. And if in the course of implementation of this budget, there are additional expenditures that then would lead to a bursting of that fiscal deficit, then we call for a supplementary budget. But we cannot say that at this point what we should be doing is a supplementary budget. What shall we be supplementing if we are even yet to pass the appropriations bill? We need to pass the appropriations bill and the finance bill so that we complete the budget making cycle. Once you complete the budget making cycle, then after that you can do a supplementary budget. But we cannot complete a budget making cycle against the law. And that is what Honorable Pio and I is telling us that we should do. It is my humble submission, Honorable Speaker, then, that this letter is in good standing, and this is the way it is. I saw a number of votes, Honorable Speaker, and I said on Tuesday, Honorable Speaker, when this report was tabled, that someone once quipped that choices have consequences. And in lawmaking, the same is true. If we choose to cut on our revenue-raising measures, as the Finance Committee has proposed, there will definitely be consequences. Honorable Speaker, I am fortunate to have been in this House in the last Parliament. The Honorable Andai, who has raised this issue, and the Honorable Junet were in this House in 2018. in 2018, Honorable Speaker. You remember the contentious Uhuru second term, the second finance bill. It was equally contentious. And you remember the debate that was there then about fuel, from 16%, 8%, from 0% VAT. And when we did the revenue raising measures bill in the form of a finance bill, consequently, we had to adjust the expenditure side. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, it is not the first time it is happening, and it is not the last time. Therefore, if our JSS teachers who we appropriated resources to hire, if there isn't adequate resources to hire JSS teachers, then something has to give in. If there is a road in Ugunja constituency that was to be tarmacked and the resources are not enough, or in Kikuyu constituency for that matter, then we just have to do away with them, Honorable Speaker. Therefore, I just want to ask the Honorable Pio to hold his horses. In actual fact, what we are doing now is anticipating debate, Honorable Speaker. We are the ones now who are anticipating debate because we are yet to complete the finance bill, because at the conclusion of the finance bill, it is only at that point we'll be able to tell the net effect of all the changes that have been made and decide whether then we need whatever quantum we need to adjust on the expenditure side. Honorable Speaker, let me just conclude by saying we cannot and we shall not have our cake and eat it at the same time. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable members, this issue is very straightforward, but for purposes of record, I'll give you a direction at 2:30. Meanwhile, we proceed with debate. It has absolutely no impact on the debate going on. I will give you a direction at 2:30. Order, Honorable Wandai, you have so ably prosecuted your case, and the majority leader has responded. Budget Chairman, I will in fact pass on these letters to you. So I'm not opening debate on this. Call out the next order. Order, honorable members. Order. When I came to the chamber, I had seen this letter. And I had also my own feelings about it. I'll give you direction at 2:30. I don't have to consume parliamentary time debating something that is very clear in my mind. My thoughts are very rich, Junet. Have you called us? Order, honorable members, order. Back to the finance bill. We have 120 requests. With 120 requests, at 5 minutes, we need about 9 to 10 hours. Can I ask the majority and minority leader to approach the chair? The majority and minority leader approach the chair. Wanjala, take your seat. Order. Badi, take your seat. Order, honorable members. Honorable members, I want us to proceed as follows. We have Honorable Zeng, is it Zambia, who has 3.5 minutes to go. I've told you how many of you have keyed in. At 7 a.m. this morning, 50 members had already keyed in. But that shows the intensity of interest in the bill. We will start the debate now up to 1. In the afternoon, I'll give you 1 hour from 2:30 to 3:30. We will not need Honorable Bukose to call for the mover to reply. The mover will be called by the Speaker to reply at 3:30, whereafter we shall go to vote. I've consulted with your leadership on whether we should go on with 5 minutes and cut off at the hours we have agreed, or allow more members to contribute by truncating the time to 3 minutes. If you agree to 3 minutes, we can truncate the time to 3 minutes so that more members can speak. Is that all right with the House? I put the question that the time for contribution be reduced from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. As members of that opinion say aye. Aye. Will those of the contrary opinion say nay? Nay. The ayes have it. Secondly, honorable members, I encourage you to desist from raising frivolous points of order, because some members have been raising points of order that are completely far from points of order. Yes. So, in Zambia, you finish your 3.5 minutes. The next members I call, you'll be taking 3 minutes. Members, you also keyed in very early, but sometimes the chair may not necessarily follow the list because you find, like you have 10 members in a row from one side. We have to balance the House. So we will be jumping and zigzagging in the list to make sure there's some balanced representation on the floor. Zambia, go on.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, we have a responsibility as a House to protect the interests of our Kenyan citizens. Honorable Speaker, I totally oppose this finance bill. Reasons being that, Honorable Speaker, we understand that the motor vehicle tax, edible oil tax, among others, have been deleted. But Honorable Speaker, there are so many hidden taxes. Honorable Speaker, when you talk of 7 shillings per liter in fuel levy, it means that the cost of production in the local industries will go up. Honorable Speaker, even the cost of producing bread will be higher than even the normal rate as at now. Honorable Speaker, our Kenyan citizens are struggling to put food on the table. Honorable Speaker, the cost of living is going to increase even further if we consider passing this bill. Honorable Speaker, I urge members of this House to consider the cry outside there of Akina Wanjiku and the others. Honorable Speaker, the life of the Kenyan citizen of running businesses is totally unbearable as we speak now. Honorable Speaker, when it comes to the local industries, they are closing down their businesses. Reason being that the cost of production is going high and high every time. And Honorable Speaker, we have come to understand that most of the industries are closing down, making it not possible to keep on employing more of the Kenyan citizens. And Honorable Speaker, when we talk of the NDF, there are so many hidden costs which the Kenyan, as a House, we should come out clear to make sure that the cost of living of the Kenyan citizens is bearable. Thank you, Honorable Chair, Speaker, and as the government, when you talk of the hustlers, the borders, the mama bokas, it is very clear that the things are getting worse and out of hand. Honorable Speaker, I urge this government to reconsider getting a better finance bill to move the Kenyan citizens forward. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Member for Mandera West. Member for Mandera West. Order, honorable members. Order. The conversations are too loud. Order. Cynthia Muge, take your seat. You've been standing there for 10 minutes. Honorable members, those who want to engage in conversations, there's a lobby out there. You can go and converse and come back. Give me time to hear what members are saying, and give those who want to listen to debate. Member for Mandera West. Give him a functioning mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this chance to contribute to this very important bill that is in front of us. Mr. Speaker, sir, finance bill is an annual event. It has been done from the time Kenya was born up to this time. I personally, I think this is the seventh one I am contributing or participating in. And therefore, we all know that without finance bill, there will be no government activity. If you don't pass finance bill and allow the government to continue with its activity, there will be no government activities. And we all know that the government is there for the interest of the community, the larger community. I take this opportunity to sincerely thank the Finance Committee for listening, for doing a very thorough public participation all over the country, and for listening to the various issues that has been raised by the public, and for particularly saying that the contentious issues such as the VAT on bread, motor vehicle, the eco levy on sanitary pads and diapers, the excise duties on vegetable oil and others, which were contentious, they have already recommended that it be dropped. And therefore, it is for this House to concur with the recommendation of the Finance Committee to drop those very contentious issues. I have been called by my constituents so much, but as I explained to them what has been dropped, and particularly the finance bill is looking at putting 1 billion shilling for restocking. As you all know that the area where I represent and others had a serious drought for 4 years, and we lost almost all our livestock, and we don't have any other livelihood except rearing of livestock. And this finance bill is giving us 1 billion to restock. That is a very big gain, and my constituents have told me that make sure that 1 billion is protected. Honorable Speaker, sir, there are very important gains in this finance bill, particularly.
Your time up. Irene Mayaka. You have 3 minutes, so compose your thoughts and compress them quickly.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I take this opportunity to emphatically reject the finance bill. And Honorable Speaker, one of the things that I just want to say and make very clear is that we should not subject ourselves to the pressures that are being implemented by the IMF on funding conditions that they're giving to this country. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank the Gen Z and the people of Kenya because they exercise their rights under Article 1 and 2 of the Constitution, together with Article 37 of the Constitution. Honorable Speaker, in my quest to reject the finance bill, one of the things that I just want to say very clearly, I keep hearing members telling us that we need to start using locally manufactured sanitary towels, and especially to our male members. I just want to tell you, stop taking Panadols for our headache. Locally manufactured sanitary pads are not of good quality. You cannot expect young girls out there to use pads that will make them have infections and such like things. Honorable Speaker, some of the clauses that I really want us to look into and come and also reject is, for example, clause number 63 that talks about KRA having access to our information. Clause number 23 that talks about amateur sporting association being added additional tax. Honorable Speaker, some of the repercussions that we will have as a country if we continue with this finance bill is that we are making our investment climate to become a very unpredictable one. We will make our country not be and have appetite for investments from foreign investors and local investors.
Mr. Speaker, we know that institutions like Kenya Railways, which import locomotives and wagons, they are importing some of these products fully assembled. Mr. Speaker, even government organizations should also make sure that those kind of products, they are also brought in knockout kits, and that they are assembled in this country to give our people the skills to assemble and also jobs. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, the sugar industry, we know that one of the major challenges that they have had is the one of the maintenance cost, and we cannot rely on importation or spare parts for this crucial industry. So it is important to develop local capacity to support our industry. Mr. Speaker, I know that if we take this line seriously of local manufacturing, our country will develop. Thank you.
Yes, Mama Zamzam, what's your point of order?
Mr. Speaker, I stand on standing order number 91, and honorable member was speaking about the importation of the tax on importation of goods. And I want to categorically say, Mr. Speaker, yesterday, my fellow MPs heckled me in Parliament, Mr. Speaker. And I was speaking about the importation of the cancer instruments, Mr. Speaker. These cancer instruments, when they are attacked, Mr. Speaker.
Order, Honorable Zamzam. Order. Take your seat. Mami, you are trying, in the guise of a standing of a point of order, you are furthering the argument that you are challenged on yesterday. And the standing orders don't allow you to speak twice on the same motion. So please, and just take your cool, Mama. Take your cool. Member for Kaspul, order, Mama Zamzam. Order, Mama Zamzam. Mheshimiwa Zamzam, waliokupigia kura Mombasa wanakuangalia ukiwekeza vidole kwa wenzako. Take your seat. Endelea, mbunge wa Kaspul.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to allow the voice of the Kaspul to be heard. After doing comparative analysis, including the other financial bills which had been brought before the House 2022-2023, we hereby voice our rejection of the bill in totality. I also want to congratulate Kenyans for coming out in advance before the leaders to do a lot of demonstration which brought some amendments which are not a factor of this discussion now. I want to draw their House to clause 46. You know, fuel is a major factor of production. Increase in the fuel levy, it affects production because in economical world, movement of materials and human produces good goods. So by increasing the fuel by 7%, actually it will increase production of essential commodity, which will increase the prices. I also want to draw attention to clause 54 of VAT remittance. Before this is brought, the remittance was being done within 30 days. Now it has been reduced to 3 days, which means Department of HR in any department will have to bring additional staff, which will increase cost. The other clause 48 on IDF, which has been increased from 2.5 to 3%, will also affect the cost of the product because there will be increment in cost of manufacturing, which will also kill industrial product. I've also seen proposed amendments, which is not a subject of today's discussion, as they are increment in 16% on bread. There is also 16% on transport of sugar. There is also increment of 16% on financial services, which will bring a great impact. I want to summarize by saying any legislator who votes for this, you will have signed your political obituaries. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Kainan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this bill contains an array of tax proposals that affect the different tax laws, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the intention is to give the government the legal force to collect taxes to finance the budget, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, ordinarily, this bill has gone through all the legislative stages that every bill ought to go through, Mr. Speaker, until it became part of the public debate, Mr. Speaker. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, taxation, all laws affecting taxations are generally emotive, polarizing, and highly political. Mr. Speaker, the debate on this bill has taken two dimensions. One is political. Mr. Speaker, the political dimension has been convoluted, highly polarized, full of propaganda, misinformation, misinterpretation, Mr. Speaker. And this is part of the norm of the Kenyan society, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as a member of the Finance and Planning Committee, we were guided by reason, we were guided by the public interest, and Mr. Speaker, we were keen on the views of the Kenyan taxpayers, Mr. Speaker, who appeared before the committee, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, proudly, I must admit, the bill as published, if we will not have effected any amendment, will have been difficult to implement, will have been difficult to internalize, Mr. Speaker, and that is why we as the members of the Finance and Planning Committee, Mr. Speaker, took time to listen and be guided by fairness and the principle of public participation, Mr. Speaker, and that's why we came up with a raft of amendments. And this amendment, Mr. Speaker, has done away with VAT on bread, VAT on transportation of sugar, VAT on financial services, VAT on increase on mobile, the 2.5% on vehicle, Mr. Speaker, the excise duty on edible oil, and many other changes, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, what I want to say is this. This is a house of tradition. This is a deliberative house. And I want to urge my colleagues here. This bill as amended meets the expectation and the test of time, and I want to urge you, don't be intimidated. Pass this bill as amended, and it will add value to the taxpayers who have elected you. These other shenanigans, these other hula blues and propaganda, you have the right to address your concerns. But as elected representative of the people of Kenya, this bill as amended meets my expectation, and therefore I urge you to, and certainly you know, Professor Omelo, I do not belong to the list of the members.
Member for Taita.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for also giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important bill, the Financial Bill 2024 of the year 2024-2025. And Mr. Speaker, from the onset, I want to say that I support the bill. And Mr. Speaker, may it be known that my vote is a yes to this bill. And so that those who are sending me very, very many and fake messages should stop. And now they know. Mr. Speaker, initially I was a bit worried after listening to my people about some of the issues that they were not comfortable with. But, Mr. Speaker, I want to commend the Committee of Finance for the good job that they did. The committee went and listened to Kenyans. They did a very good public participation, and they took the views of Kenyans. And when they brought this bill, Mr. Speaker, they incorporated the views of Kenyans. We can see the amendments, the proposed amendments, Mr. Speaker, which are good and are very considerate. Mr. Speaker, VAT on bread was a thorn on the flesh of Kenyans. And I'm so glad that the Finance Committee negated or deleted that bit on the finance bill, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the tax on vehicle as well was also a contentious issue in this country. But that one was also deleted in the bill, Mr. Speaker. That is also a win. Mr. Speaker, tax on mobile transactions was also something that Kenyans were talking about and they were not comfortable with, Mr. Speaker. The committee did it justice to Kenyans as well because that tax is no longer there. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that this bill promotes local manufacturers because when we exempt taxes on the local manufacturers, such that the ones that produce stuff like sanitary towels, diapers, and this stuff, Mr. Speaker, then we will be promoting the local manufacturers and therefore creating employment to many Kenyans because this.
Thank you. You have finished your time. Peter Kaluma. Yes, Lelmengit. What's your point of order? And under what standing order?
The standing order. Honorable Mr. Speaker, I have an issue with the internet connection.
Pardon?
The Wi-Fi, the internet connection of this house. Mr. Speaker. The Wi-Fi is not functioning. And we need to communicate to the Gen Z out there, Mr. Speaker. We want to know what is happening out there and the reaction of the population. Please, Mr. Speaker, can we ask the clerks, the people responsible for the ICT, so that they can fix this menace?
The clerks will take care of that. Kaluma?
I thank you, Honorable Speaker, for allowing me to speak to this particular bill. Honorable Speaker, debate on finance bill is the most important debate in any democracy. In fact, the history of parliaments is that the main reason as to why parliaments were established is that there should be no taxation without representation. So, Honorable Speaker, let me begin by clarifying that it is not President Ruto outside there who is taxing people. It is this parliament that taxes people. And that is why, Honorable Speaker, when you look at Article 94, the Constitution is very clear. Our first duty is representation. And because of that, Honorable Speaker, on these matters touching on finance bill, I want to urge my colleagues, including myself, that when the position of your political party or your political party leader is not aligned with the position of your people, on this, stand with your people. Stand with your people. And so, Honorable Speaker, I'm standing to oppose because the people of Homa Bay Town constituency, for whom I speak, are saying the imagination that we can impose taxes on bread is bad. The imagination that we can impose taxes on vehicles which are already assets is not good. The imagination, Honorable Speaker, that we can impose any taxes on eggs, whether imported or otherwise, the people of Homa Bay tell me, Honorable Speaker, is bad. Honorable Speaker, I'm encouraged with the thinking that we can drop most of those I've mentioned. But Honorable Speaker, let me mention that when you were at the University of Nairobi, if you needed to change diet, the only thing you go to is an egg. It's an egg. This is the diet balancing, you know, food. Egg with sukuma wiki, you have ugali, you are done. It is for students. That is the case in the villages. Honorable Speaker, you may say we are going to impose taxes only on imported table eggs. But how will you distinguish between those eggs you're using to hatch and the eggs to be eaten on the table? Do we have the machinery to confirm it? Honorable Speaker, there is no empirical data. And this is where I think the Finance Committee failed this House. Do we have data in terms of the amount of eggs which are imported against the amounts produced locally that are in our market? Once we increase the price for imported eggs, going by the amounts, my fear, Honorable Speaker, is that when you go to the shop, you will not distinguish. Honorable Speaker, the last...
Time up, Ferdinand Wanyonyi. It is 3 minutes. Don't talk as if it is 10 minutes, it's 3 minutes.
I want to take this opportunity, thank you very much, Speaker, to remind this House that the budget is actually an annual circulation, and therefore I'll ask members, and I think the opportunity is there, not only that, but not to whip our emotion on this. Let's not whip our emotion on this. The opportunity has been given to us to have suggestions, so that can be able to have suggestions that can be able to at least correct whatever we have gone wrong, to be able to correct and put in whatever input you can put to be able to create more opportunities for our people. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, mine is to ask members to come up with those suggestions, because the ball is in our court, to be able to come up with whatever suggestions you have, to be able to correct and implement some of these issues that can be able to be self-sustainable. As you know, you are told Kenya is now the 27th fastest growing economy in the whole country. And therefore, I want to take this opportunity to thank the committee. led by my brother Kimani, that we should be able to move faster and be able to come in with suggestions to be able to move, because one of which, as you say, you want to dismiss this particular proposal. We have CDF, and have given us like 15 million shillings. We have the CALF for the ladies, but again, 30 million shillings. And of course, electricity, to be able to have our country with a nice approach to economy by having electricity all over the country. Therefore, I think this bill is good enough. We should not actually dismiss it for the sake of it. We should be able to come in with positive approach to be able to move forward. As it is today, and we just want to dismiss because somebody called me and asked him, what do you want me to remove? He didn't even know. So let's not go by emotion. Let's go by whatever we have and be able to move forward our economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Manduku.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For avoidance of doubt, I stand to oppose the Finance Bill 2024 and urge my colleagues to vote no. Mr. Speaker, the bill as presented before the House goes against our own tax policy, which we approved in this House. But curiously, Mr. Speaker, in an effort to expand the tax base, there's a provision that has been sneaked in that will compel families to pay capital gains tax on land that they transfer to their children. If you look at the proposal to amend the Stamp Duty Act Cap 480, I find it difficult that if I give my son land, or if I ask my family to donate land to my children, I'll be compelled to pay some taxes. Further than that, Mr. Speaker, and having worked at the Port of Mombasa, I can tell you that this country is a net importer. And therefore, increasing the IDF fees by 0.5% will have a net effect of having expensive goods manufactured locally. Mr. Speaker, there's a provision also in this bill that seeks to expand or to extend the number of days that the Kenya Revenue Authority can get back to taxpayers on decision making from the 60 days to 90 days. I find it curious that we want to give the taxman a lot of time to get back to us on very simple decisions which would otherwise streamline taxation. Mr. Speaker, my advice to the government is that they should get down to work. Avoid listening to tweeting economists and avoid too many prayers. Get back to work and grow the economy. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Kajiado Central.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Honorable Speaker, I rise to support the Finance Bill 2024 for the following reason, Honorable Speaker. One, the Finance Act 2023 had reduced the import declaration fee from 3.5 to 2.5%. This, Honorable Speaker, not only gave us a whole of 10 billion shillings, but it also encouraged importation. And Honorable Speaker, we all know the net effect of this. The proposed finance bill, Honorable Speaker, is proposing to take back the importation declaration fee to 3.5 and therefore discouraging importation and therefore growing our industries. Honorable Speaker, I'd like to commend the Gen Zs who have been out there, but also advise them to seek information. Because one of the reasons why these young people are out in the streets is mainly because of unemployment. This importation declaration fee that has been increased seeks to grow our manufacturing sector and therefore seeks to employ the same young people. Second, Honorable Speaker, is the eco levy in clause 45 of the bill. Honorable Speaker, we all know the effects of climate change, the negative effects of climate change. This levy, Honorable Speaker, seeks to protect our environment from environmental wastes, which is one of the contributors to climate change. Honorable Speaker, we could go on and on climate change and the effects and the negative effects that this has brought to the economy of this country. And lastly, Honorable Speaker, as a pastoralist, and I also urge the pastoralist members who are here to be keen. In the past budget, we have 1 billion shillings that is meant to be restocking money for our people. Our people had suffered losses due to drought. The 1 billion is going to be a game changer to our people. There is also money for value addition. And this, Honorable Speaker, I support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Karole Omondi.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to speak to this bill. Let me begin by acknowledging that the bill is 132 pages and 65 clauses. So to say that you are rejecting it in totality is just playing to the gallery. I think there are good things and bad things in the bill. Mr. Speaker, I would like to talk to three things only because of the limitation of time. The first one is a clause that is being introduced in this bill on tax abandonment. I've not had a lot of public discussion on it, but for the first time, we are being asked to make provision in law for the Commissioner of Tax, together with the CS Treasury, to give tax waivers where, in their view, the tax cannot be collected. I think this is a very, very fundamental activity that requires the input of this House. I think tax that is due is already public property, and any activity to waive it or to claim that it can be abandoned must have the input of this House. So I will be recommending, or rather I've already recommended certain amendments that will come to the floor of the House to recast this particular clause to see that any attempts to abandon tax are subject to approval of this House, as well as the requirements of Articles 201 and 210 of the Constitution of Kenya. Secondly, there is another provision in this particular bill talking about investment allowance for spectrum use. I believe this matter should be looked into detail because it also has retroactive effects on the tax that will be collected from the telecom companies. I believe there's a lot of work as Parliament we need to do on this matter to see that we do not create a loophole for tax losses of a very large scale. Finally, because of limitation of time, I would also like to acknowledge that there are very many good initiatives in these particular proposals or in these bills, especially those on cement and use of clinker. An impression was being created that the cost of cement will go up. Actually, the bill is reducing the cost of cement by waiving a lot of charges on the clinker. And I think that should go on record. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I will be supporting with amendments. Thank you.
Ndindi Nyoro, Chairman Budget.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. And before I proceed, Honorable Speaker, I would wish to beg, because we are on the other side of expenditure, if possible, you could hand me a few minutes so that I bring forth a message I have for the House.
Okay, I'll give you an extra 2 minutes, so you have 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as the law provides in the PFM Act, Article 39A, that we have to balance our expenditure and our revenues. Honorable Speaker, I want to talk as the chairman of budget, and I actually want to talk as an indifferent party, that whatever may happen on the bill, the Budget and Appropriations Committee is prepared, Honorable Speaker. But from the onset, we want to laud Kenyans for their voices. This country belongs to Kenyans, and when they express themselves, they are doing precisely what the Constitution provides. I also want to laud all the Kenyan leaders, including our side of government and the other side, Honorable Speaker, because we are all geared to the welfare of the Kenyan people. Honorable Speaker, I have since, and I want members to, if possible, they can have this in their mind as we debate. I have since received a letter and communication from the National Treasury addressed to the clerk of the National Assembly, but I am copied as the chairperson of budget. And Honorable Speaker, the Treasury is looking in all scenarios. Scenario number one, if the bill passes only with the amendments from the Finance Committee. Scenario number two is actually if the bill, the MPs in their wisdom decide that we shelve it. And Honorable Speaker, if the status quo remains, that we pass the bill as proposed by the Honorable Kimani Kuria and the committee, the appropriations bill passes as it is, Honorable Speaker, as we did last week. However, Honorable Speaker, it is important for members to note that in case there is a downfall in terms of the revenues by the proposed 200 billion that was to be raised in the finance bill, Honorable Speaker, then the government and the National Treasury and the Budget Committee is also prepared for that scenario. And I have communication, Honorable Speaker, from the National Treasury from the proposals. And I wish that I read some of them, that if the bill does not pass, Honorable Speaker, we'll be reducing the budget for the State House, 451 million, budget at the State Office of the President, 451 million, security organs, defense, for example, will be losing 7.75 billion, ongoing pivots in our constituencies will have to shelve that ambition by reducing by 800 million, Honorable Speaker. Higher Education Loans Board will be losing 3.2 billion. Honorable Speaker, the JSS teachers, 46,000 of them, Honorable Speaker, by letting this bill pass, will actually be giving jobs at a permanent and pensionable. And Honorable Speaker, if the wisdom of this House is to shelve that decision, then it means the JSS teachers, whom, Honorable Speaker, I would persuade this House that we confirm there will be no funding. NGCDF will be reducing by 15 billion shillings, which is 50 million per constituency, Honorable Speaker. The monies we appropriated for electricity, 50 million per constituency, Honorable Speaker, by, again, not giving the National Treasury the power for more revenue-raising measures, the 50 million per constituency will be disappearing today, Honorable Speaker. Coffee Cherifat will be cut 1 billion, Honorable Speaker, if there is no funding, Honorable Speaker, through the finance bill. Our last plea is this. This letter is public information. It can be shared to the members of Parliament. Honorable Speaker, my plea is this, as the chairman of budget, that if it's possible, the House Business Committee can actually bring the appropriations bill this afternoon. That the decision that we take in the finance bill, we can also cascade the same by appropriating the proposed cuts in the appropriation bill so that we can finish the entire business today, Honorable Speaker. However, Honorable Speaker, I am sure with the same energy that we are speaking either for or against, we will also explain to Kenyans, the JSS teachers, I am sure those who will be voting against the confirmation to PNP, we will also explain to them, Honorable Speaker. Those voting against increment in CDF will also be, Honorable Speaker, explaining to Kenyans about it. Those who will be voting against the increment, Honorable Speaker, of employing 20,000 more teachers will have an ample time to explain to the teachers of this country, Honorable Speaker. And Honorable Speaker, the proposed cut in terms of roads is 15 billion. Those will be voting against the increment of 15 billion to roads. I am sure they'll eloquently explain to Kenyans about it, also, Honorable Speaker.
A minute to finish.
Order. Honorable Speaker.
Order, honorable members. Order. Order. Give him 3 minutes and wind up.
Honorable Speaker, I want to be very objective. Honorable Speaker, these are the proposed cuts in case there is no revenue-raising measures as proposed by Honorable Kimani Kuria. Honorable Speaker, number one, as I said, I want to be very clear. State House has been cut money 500 million, Office of the President another 500 million, security like defense is 7.75 billion cuts. Honorable Speaker, the same. We have already promised our JSS teachers that the 46,000 of them will be employed on permanent and pensionable. Honorable Speaker, if we don't give the National Treasury the power for revenue-raising measures, it means the people will be voting against the confirmation of the 46,000 interns. Will have ample time to explain to them how they voted against them getting permanent jobs, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the reduction in NGCDF is 15 billion shillings. That is a small figure, Honorable Speaker, because I can see members are saying 50 million is not much. In Kiharo, it's a lot of money, Honorable Speaker, that every constituency will be cut 50 million shillings starting July, Honorable Speaker. GAF, we just added them 500 million. Honorable Speaker, the proposal is to reverse the 500 million and also to reduce further by an extra 1 billion, Honorable Speaker. The monies we appropriated for electricity, 50 million per constituency, Honorable Speaker. I hope those who will be voting against electrification in our villages will have time to explain to Kenyans why they are voting against electricity in our rural areas, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, there is a proposed reduction.
Order. Honorable Commissioner Mishi, I know you differently. Order. Order, honorable members. Order. Order, honorable members on both sides of the House. Order. Order. Honorable members on both sides of the House. In the tradition of Parliament, if you approve of something, you thumb your feet. You don't wail and shout as if you are in a rally. This is not a rally. This is a House of Parliament. Dindi, can you wind up?
Honorable Speaker, the other thing is that there is a proposed reduction of 1 billion shillings in livestock restocking. From our side, we believe those who lost their livestock deserve to be compensated. Those who will vote against 1 billion that is going to livestock restocking will explain to our pastoralist, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, also, the monies proposed for reduction for school feeding program is 1.8 billion. On our side, we believe the 1.8 billion is needed to feed the children of this country as they go to our schools, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, the political parties, we can all agree in unison. We are proposing a cut of 900 million. I know that is not contentious. We can agree to cut it this afternoon, Honorable Speaker, because we are also prepared for it. Honorable Speaker, there is a proposed cut of 5.5 billion shillings for cash transfer. Our parents who registered last year deserve to get their cash transfer.
Order, time up. Bed Simba. Order.
Asante sana
Mheshimiwa. You have already spoken on this bill. You have no business doing what you are doing.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika kunipa fursa na mimi niweze kuzungumzia kuhusu mswada huu wa fedha. Mimi nimesimama kuupinga mswada huu. Na kitu nitasema hapa, viongozi muheshimu malalamishi ama matakwa ya wananchi. Muisikize vilio vya wananchi. kuongeza ushuru wa mafuta kutapandisha kila bidhaa ambayo inahusiana na mafuta. Kwa hivyo hii ni shughuli ambayo haifai, kwa sababu gharama za maisha zitakuwa juu. Kuweka ushuru kwa bidhaa zinazotoka ng'ambo sije tena mwananchi, kwa sababu bidhaa zinazotengenezwa hapa nchini bado haziwezi kukimu mahitaji yetu, mpaka tutachukua tena kutoka kule zile za ng'ambo, ambazo zitaleta shida zaidi. Kwanza tutengeneze viwanja vyetu kabla tujaweka ushuru huo. Na kuhusu kwamba fedha zitatoka wapi, wapunguze matumizi katika ofisi za serikali. Wanaweka pesa nyingi kuhudumia wageni wakija. Kama mgeni amekuja, mpe maji ya kunywa, na kama ni lazima akae paka mchana, mpe kidheri, mwambie hiyo ndio chakula chetu cha kitamaduni, sio kukula makuku na madino kwa gharama za wananchi. Mnaleta paka tu katika sehemu zenu. Kupandisha bei ya mikate, mwananchi wa kawaida ni bidhaa ambayo inatumika kwa kila boma. Kila boma asubuhi na jioni natumia mikate. Wewe unaenda kuongeza ushuru wa mkate, na mkifanya hivyo tutakunywa chai na mgoka kama ndio mnataka hivyo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba serikali ipunguze ile matumizi ambao wao wanafanya, wapunguze safari wanazokwenda nje, waende mahali ikiwa ni muhimu na ni watu wawili pekee yake, hapana kwenda watu 30, alafu mnasema wananchi waongeze ushuru, na huku mmechukua ndege nzima mnaenda nayo huko nje. Mnakwenda mahoteli, mnazungumza ambao mikutano mnaweza fanya katika boardroom zenu. Hiyo ndio sio ni matatizo. Kwa hivyo mimi nasema kwamba ushuru ama hii mswada wa fedha uangushwe huu, kwa sababu wananchi wameusoma. Msione wale watoto wale vijana wameandamana, walisoma, kwa sababu huu mswada uko katika mitandao, wanajua kila kipengee kile kilichoko pale. Mnaongeza matairi, mnaongeza vyombo ambavyo vitapima saratani, mnaongeza bidhaa ambazo za x-ray ambao tayari matibabu ni gharama, na saizi mnaongeza tena. Itakuwa zaidi, watu wanaumia, watoto wanajinyonga huko kwa sababu ya depression ambazo wako nazo. Kwa hivyo Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kupinga mswada huu. Asante sana.
Mwengi Mutuse.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my friends. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wish to make a very brief contribution. And my contribution, first of all, is to debunk some erroneous myths that have been perpetuated in this debate. Mr. Speaker, during this debate, a perception has been created that the contestations around the finance bill have only happened after President William Ruto became president. Nothing can be far from the truth. Mr. Speaker, those of us who are students of history know that taxation began 3,000 years before Christ, actually in the ancient kingdom of Egypt. And even at that time, taxation was contentious. It has also been said before this House during the government of Kenyatta I, during the government of President Moi, during the government of President Kibaki, during the government of Kenyatta II, and even now, the finance bill has been an annual event, and it has never been a smooth sail. But something different has happened this year, Mr. Speaker. During the many times that the finance bill has been presented before Parliament, a lot of the times the voices of the people have never been factored by either the Parliament or by the executive. But for the first time in history, the voices of the people have been heard and have been factored in the report that was presented before this House by the Finance Committee. One of the principles of good governance is responsiveness. Responsiveness to the wishes of the people. And I want to laud the Finance Committee for being responsive to the wishes of the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, politics is a very interesting game. On Tuesday, and if we may be heard in silence, Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, after we finished our parliamentary group, I had a very jovial discussion with some of my friends who are on the other side. I had very jovial discussions with some of my friends who are on the other side, and they were saying, why have you removed everything that you wanted to rely on in the finance bill to do politics? And I asked them, but you complained about these things, and you have been heard and they have been removed. And they told me, you know, the work of opposition is to oppose. And now that you have pulled the carpet under our feet, we must find something new to hang on. I am saying this so that Kenyans know that the opposition to the finance bill is majorly inspired by politics. It may not be inspired by the content. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, as a lawyer, I want to say, and this would have been ably articulated if I may get 1 minute, that the issues that have been complained of have already been overtaken by events. They are actually otious. Finally, what is the effect of rejecting the finance bill? The effect of rejecting the finance bill is to resort back to the finance bill of
Joseph Oyula.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to also contribute to this important bill. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by thanking the Finance Committee for the work well done. It took a long time, but they came up with a good report. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the amendments that were made, this bill was a disaster. This bill is assuming that the Kenyans' tax rate should move to a higher rate regime, which is not comfortable for this country at all. Mr. Speaker, we should not take ourselves to a higher tax regime, which is going to cause stress to our business community and the individuals. The country needs to move slowly towards a higher tax regime. If the country is moved very fast, Mr. Speaker, then we will not balance our budget. Mr. Speaker, we need to make sure that the revenue is raised, yes, but also the tax rate is comfortable to the community of this country. Mr. Speaker, as we go through this bill, Mr. Speaker, let us note that increasing the tax rates does not guarantee raising that money. It has happened in the bill for 2023, we never made it. The chances are that during this period, we may also not make it. So the Treasury should not come up with such a disastrous proposal in the tax rates. It is for this reason, Mr. Speaker, that we are rejecting this bill, and I would want the Treasury to take it back and come up with a bill that is balanced, a bill that will ensure the country is raising revenue, and a bill that will ensure the people of Kenya are not stressed. This is very important, because if we raise the tax and we don't get that money, it will not help the country at all. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Jane Kagiri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me an opportunity to contribute to this very important bill. Honorable Speaker, allow me to start by congratulating the Finance Committee for listening to Kenyans and honoring their request on the deletion of the taxes that they felt that were punitive on them. Honorable Speaker, I would want to contribute on the clause on the introduction of eco-levy on sanitary towels and diapers. Honorable Speaker, I speak as the chairperson of the 47 women representatives. And recently, Honorable Speaker, we had the opportunity of enacting the Education Act of 2016, where we ensured that every student from class 5 to class 8 girls receive their sanitary towels. Honorable Speaker, out of the 47 counties, only 4 local manufacturers were given the opportunity to supply these sanitary towels. Honorable Speaker, these prominent towels has been treated to a lot of drama and untruthful stories of the situation we would find ourselves with sanitary towels. Allow me, Honorable Speaker, to state that this levy has been introduced so that we encourage our local production and our local manufacturers, Honorable Speaker. I hear some members say that we will have no supply because we don't have enough manufacturers. Honorable Speaker, I have had conversations with our manufacturers who are able to produce enough sanitary towels for us. Honorable Speaker, a visit to the supermarkets made me learn that sanitary towels that are locally manufactured are cheaper than those that are imported. Honorable Speaker, we cannot allow importers to continue making unscrupulous profits on Kenyans here, yet they pay no excise on their products, and the local manufacturers have to pay VAT on their raw materials. Honorable Speaker, I stand to support this bill, and I stand to support the eco-levy being charged on sanitary towels and diapers to ensure that we grow our local manufacturers. A local manufacturer told me he used to have 600 employees. He has reduced them to 100 because of idle capacity. Honorable Speaker, it is our time to stop speaking from both sides of our mouths. If we want to create employment, we cannot be the defenders of importers. Anybody who wants to import can come set up the industry locally, and that way we are going to give them all the business that they need. And if they lack a place to go and establish their industries, I'm gladly welcoming them to Laikipia County, where they can come and set up a manufacturing industry, and we will not charge them any duty as long as they're producing diapers and sanitary towels locally within our country. Honorable Speaker, allow me to conclude by saying, Honorable Speaker, allow me to conclude by saying, I'm speaking as a user of sanitary towels, as well as a mother to a toddler who uses diapers. So, Honorable Speaker, anybody telling us about imported sanitary towels, they range from the price of 75 shillings to around 175 shillings. Locally produced sanitary towels are ranging between 55 shillings and 75 shillings.
Andon Oloch.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. From the very onset, allow me to say that I rise to oppose this bill. Honorable Speaker, the Finance Bill 2024-2025 has redefined our public discourse on things that affect us, especially on the question of how, when, what, and where to tax the people of Kenya. I want to take this opportunity to thank our Generation Z. They have reminded us of what is stated under Article 2 and how we, as this legislative house, the executive and judiciary, arrive at the positions in which we arrive. Honorable Speaker, this generation in their public discourse on the question of the finance bill has reminded us that the sovereign power actually belongs to them. All this power is delegated power. The power, including that power to levy taxation, is a power that is a delegated power. It is circumscribed, it is limited, and must be used for and on behalf and for the good of the people of this country. This is what the people in the Generation Z have told us. I have 2 points to advance, especially because of the time that we have. Let me talk about tax administration. Honorable Speaker, a misrepresentation has been made in this administration and in the last 2 finance bills that the more tax you levy, the more yield you will get in terms of revenue. Nothing can be further from the truth. There is a big revenue shortfall from the 2023-2024 financial year in terms of tax revenue. Honorable Speaker, the policy underpinning the revenue or tax collection in this country, and especially this administration, is wanting. There is very little that has been said in terms of what measures that have been put in place to seal the loopholes on corruption, which would lead to higher yields as opposed to imposing more taxes and taxes on every issue. Honorable Speaker, I also want to speak on the policy disconnect of the better agenda of this government. I sit in the Trade Committee, and on the 2 places where you can get more employment for the youth in this country, in ICT, digital economy, they have levied taxes. They have now come with the position that we have listened to you Kenyans. We have listened, we have reduced bread, we have reduced eco-levy, we have reduced this, and we have reduced this tax. The fact of the matter is that this was a long con. The real bill is what is in the report.
Member for Manyata.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I want, Honorable Speaker, to draw the House and the public in the Constitution of Kenya, Article 10, read together with Article 118, Honorable Speaker, the national values and principles of governance, and Honorable Speaker, public access to information and participation, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, let me say that the conversation around the finance bill has actually given this House and the leaders in various parastatals, including the Treasury, a wake-up call. Honorable Speaker, from the onset, there is a need to engage Kenyans in the process of formation of the finance bill. And Honorable Speaker, the good ideas and the bad ideas in this finance bill, Honorable Speaker, shouldn't have gotten to this House without engagement by the public, Honorable Speaker, from the onset and from the formation of this bill, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, we have made it even more difficult to the Chairman, Finance Committee, my brother Kimani Kuria. He has had it so rough for the few weeks because he had to explain what the thoughts of the Treasury Department of this country from a point of his own logic, Honorable Speaker. And I want to call upon the ministry to change tactic. And also, maybe, Honorable Speaker, it is the right time to think about how we can empower and entrench permanently issues to do with public participation and public engagement, Honorable Speaker, in our laws. Because, Honorable Speaker, we need to rethink the public participation laws so that the public can be with us from the onset of formation of our bills, moving forward, so that we don't have good ideas that are going to have a backlash of Kenyans because of lack of participation, Honorable Speaker. The putative clauses that have found themselves in this bill, Honorable Speaker, the issues of motor vehicle tax, the cooking oil, the airtime, should not have gotten to this bill, Honorable Speaker, where we are today. And I feel it is important we learn from this. Honorable Speaker, where we are as a country, we need to know and show Kenyans that we are cutting costs.
Wamboka. Give him the mic.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. From the onset, I want to say I oppose the finance bill for the very reason that we are representatives of the people and the people have spoken. I think over time, Kenyans are losing their cool day by day. As we witnessed on Tuesday, Kenyans, and young Kenyans particularly, whom I want to congratulate, were on street saying that this bill is not good. And they are the people who sent us here, Honorable Speaker. So if my people of Bumula constituency have told me that where they sit, they are overburdened and no more burdening, and I should not say no, and they elected me, Mr. Speaker, I must go by what they say. The committee, in its report, proposes to increase the road maintenance levy from 18 shillings to 25 per litre for all petroleum fuels. If this proposal passes, it will directly increase price of fuel by about 7 shillings, Mr. Speaker. However, this proposal may not be effective. One, you want to tell borders that you are our people. You are the people on the ground. You are the people we wanted to lift from bottom up. At the same time, you now want them to buy the same fuel at a higher price. How are they going to manage? And I want to tell the chairman of this committee that when people are overburdened, they cannot afford these taxes. You must review the 2023-24 finance bill, and you realize that you did not achieve what you wanted because it's too expensive for ordinary Kenyans. So you will still not hit your target because you are overburdening these people. Mr. Speaker, our constitution talks of public participation. The chairman introduced this as an afterthought, meaning he has not subjected this to public participation. On behalf of Mama Mboga, on behalf of Boda Boda, on behalf of people who cannot afford their living, Mr. Speaker, we say no. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I oppose.
Member for Molo. Joro, sorry. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for granting me this opportunity for me to contribute to this important financial bill. Mr. Speaker, let me start first by appreciating what the chairman, finance and the budget have done with their teams. And Madam Speaker, allow me to say that Kenyans had cried so much. Even in my constituency, I had gotten a lot of people making requests for us to do different amendments in relation with the bread, the issues of the motorbikes, motorcycles, cooking wells, pumps, and so many other issues. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I'm just standing to support this finance bill because the committee and the members of this parliament have heard the cries of the members of this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, still on that point, we cannot sit here in this parliament and forget that we are the representatives of the people, and our people needs a lot of support in different sectors. Madam Speaker, in this finance bill, we are getting each constituency in this country 50 million Kenya shillings in relation with electricity matters. It is in the same finance bill, Madam Speaker, that we are also adding 401 billion Kenya shillings to the county for development. Madam Speaker, in the same finance bill, we are here also to appreciate that we have gotten addition in the CDF. Also, the GAF team has gotten addition. And Madam Speaker, it is on this finance bill, which is also we are gaining a lot, that even our 46,000, our JSS teachers, they will be confirmed. And then, Madam Speaker, in relation also with this finance bill, it is good also to appreciate that in this country we have a lot of roads which are destroyed. Every time we are camping in the office of the CS Murkomen, and therefore when we are getting funding through for our roads. And Madam Speaker, on that point, some of us, we have projects which are stored in our respective constituencies. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we are supporting this bill, which also caters for our elderly, which also caters for matters of farmers and very many things in this country. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we stand here as members of parliament also to remember that it is good to be honest as members, and it is good also to guide our people, and we elected the members of parliament to give the good direction to our people. Therefore, Madam Speaker, whoever is rejecting this finance bill is against the will of Kenyans. Kenyans want development. We have heard the cries of Kenyans, and Madam Speaker, we have done the right amendment. And
your time is up. Honorable Muliungi, Mwingi Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am directed by the people of Mwingi Central and the youth in general to reject this bill. Madam Speaker, I therefore rise to oppose. Madam Speaker, this bill is not only punitive, but retrogressive. Madam Speaker, the amendments were meant to hoodwink Kenyans because in the first instance, why did you put tax on bread? Why did you put tax on diapers? Why did you put tax on cooking oil? These are essentials. Why did you put tax on M-Pesa? Why did you put tax on boda? Madam Speaker, I'm very disturbed by this finance bill, especially because this government is insensitive even to the sick. There is a tax on cancer equipment, which will eventually increase the cost of treatment of cancer. Madam Speaker, the bill in general intends to increase taxation, which eventually will increase the cost of living, and it will make life harder and make Kenyans poorer. Madam Speaker, we recall that the Kenya Kwanza government promised a bottom-up economic model, taking money to the hustlers, to the villages, to the poor. But this bill is now taking money from the poor and bringing it back to Nairobi. Madam Speaker, I care for the people of Mwingi, I care for the jobless, I care for the youth, I care for the hustlers. I therefore reject the bill. I reject high taxation. I reject high cost of living. I reject poverty. I reject oppression. I condemn Treasury for bringing this shoddy bill to Parliament. And therefore I demand its withdrawal. Madam Speaker, I oppose archaic, punitive, outrageous, and careless finance bills in the future. I say no to this finance bill. I say no to oppression. I say no to unfair taxation. I say no to poverty. I reject the finance bill. I reject. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Member for Butere, Honorable Tindi.
Asante sana madam. Asante sana Bi Speaker kwa kunipea nafasi. Jambo la kwanza nataka niseme nimesimama kwa kupinga mswada huu wa fedha mwaka wa 2024. Bi Speaker, vile unajua Wakenya wanahangaika, gharama ya maisha iko juu, na serikali ambayo iko kwa mamlaka ilitafuta kura na mamlaka ikiambia Wakenya ya kwamba watashukisha ushuru, wakasema ya kwamba wataweka pesa mfukoni, watatengeneza kazi na watafanya maisha ikuwe mema kwa ule Mkenya wa kawaida. Kwa hivyo hii mswada wa fedha unaongeza ushuru ambayo ni kinyume na vile walieleza Wakenya. Hii mswada unaongeza gharama kwa ubebaji wa miwa kutoka kwa shamba ikienda katika kiwanda, na hiyo itadhuru bei ya mkulima kupata ile faida kutoka kwa miwa. Pia tuko na kipengele ambacho kinaongea kuhusu maneno ya kuongeza bei kwa vifaa vya kufanya utafiti katika ugonjwa wa saratani. Kwa hivyo mimi kama mjumbe wa Butere, Bi Speaker, mimi napinga mswada huu wa fedha 2024, na nasema ya kwamba wenzangu ambao wako kwa serikali watimize ile ahadi ambayo waliambia Wakenya. Tunataka tuone mama mboga akifaidika katika serikali, tunataka kuona bodaboda akifaidika, tunataka kuona mtu wa chini ambaye ni hasla akifaidika. Tunataka tuone viwanda zikiwanawiri, sio kuweka ushuru mingi katika viwanda. Kwa hivyo, Speaker, mimi kama mjumbe wa Butere nataka niende katika rekodi ya kwamba nimepinga mswada huu, na najua Wakenya wengi wako na sisi tutapiga kupinga mswada wa 2024. Asanteni sana.
Member for Sigor, Lochakapong.
Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Now I rise to support this Finance Bill 2024. And Honorable Speaker, arising out of the report of the Finance and Planning Committee that has considered the recommendations through public participations of stakeholders, that is Kenyans, and proposed a raft of amendments to the Finance Bill, Honorable Speaker, I will want to support based on that. Now, Honorable Speaker, when you look at the report of the Finance and Planning Committee, which is a committee of this House, having looked at the Finance Bill and having listened to the stakeholders, Honorable Speaker, I think it is a good report. And on the basis of this report, Honorable Speaker, I want to support this Finance Bill. Now, Honorable Speaker, it will also be dishonest for those opposing this report and this bill that they are only looking at the Finance Bill as proposed and not looking at the report of the committee that has looked at this Finance Bill. Honorable Speaker, now arising out of the engagement from public participation and the stakeholders, Honorable Speaker, now the committee has proposed a raft of amendments to the bill, which has taken into account the wishes and the thinking of the majority of Kenyans. Now, Honorable Speaker, I think it will also be important to inform the Gen Zs that they need to be updated because they are on the streets based on the original bill and not taking into account what the committee has recommended for amendment. Now, Honorable Speaker, when you look at the committee's report, there is a proposal to increase the excise duty on money transfer services, which has since been dropped by the committee. Now, motor vehicle tax of 2.5%, Honorable Speaker, has been dropped. 16% VAT on financial services has also been dropped by the committee in their recommendation. And I think, Honorable Speaker, this is a good thing. Now, Honorable Speaker, from the report of this committee, now, KRA, they have dropped the KRA to access personal data, and that has been dropped. 16% VAT on solar has also been dropped. Now 16% VAT on ordinary bread has also been dropped. So I think it is good to tell the country that that is what has happened. Now, Honorable Speaker, there is a proposal in the budget of 1 billion shillings for livestock.
Member for Migori, Honorable Fatuma.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. I stand here to confirm that I will vote no and I oppose this bill with the strongest words possible. Madam Speaker, I would like those speaking in this House to go into their phones and see what's happening on the streets. If there is any public participation that needs to be done, it is now. Go out and see what's happening on the streets. All our uniformed policemen are out to tackle it out with the youths. The youths who are not from Kibera, the youths who are not from Majengo, they are from Karen, they are from Kayole, they are from Lavington, they are Christians, they are Muslims, they are all mixed races. They are against this bill. But because they voted for me, today I will vote for them, saying it is a no. Madam Speaker, there is a problem with the youth getting jobs in this country. And majority of them are now depending on social media to make some pennies for them to feed their family. As we say that we have lowered the cost of bread, may I tell you, bread will not be affordable at all for these youths, because the smartphones that they use to do TikTok and any other small business that can give them funds, they have put a levy on it of about 225 shillings on top of the price that is already there. We know very well that we don't have smartphones here manufactured into better quality that they can use for their business. Madam Speaker, we are hurting the hustlers that we promised to help. They have created their own jobs for themselves, and we are still following them up where they are to hurt them more. Madam Speaker, we know that electricity is very expensive in this country, and more so it's even irregular. You get electricity 1 hour, 2 hours, it is gone. Madam Speaker, we have put an extra levy on the basic solar system batteries, meaning that if you can't get Kenya Power, sorry, you cannot get solar. What else are we trying to tell Kenyans? What are we telling investors? That go to hell. And I am telling you, Madam Speaker, since this government came into power, we have 30 companies that have closed down, including my favorite son's company called Cadbury that makes Cadbury chocolates. Soon you won't be able to get them at all because the company has closed. And other more like Procter & Gamble, Ricket & Banker, Colgate Palmolive, Cadbury, even Rubber, I can go on up to 30. Unfortunately, we brag here and say that we are creating jobs. May I tell you, the sanitary pads that we are bragging here that we have put levy on imported ones. I want you to know that all these women in this house, plus your daughters and sons, fellow men, they know that these sanitary pads that are being put on tax here, in other countries they're given.
Member for Mandera South, Honorable Abdul Haro.
Give me the mic. Hello. Yeah, thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to put my voice on this very important debate. Honorable Speaker, I must say the finance bill, as it was originally prepared by the Treasury, was a bill that I was prepared to vote no on a number of clauses. But thanks to the Finance Committee, which has listened to stakeholders and has come up with a raft of proposals that are recommending to amend the finance bill as it was originally mentioned. Honorable Speaker, there are quite a number of areas which are directly important to my constituents, although the entire finance bill is important to my constituents, but there are a number of areas which are directly important to my constituents, and those areas have been proposed in the Finance Committee report after listening to the stakeholders for amendment. Particularly, the 16% VAT on bread is very important to my constituents, and I'm happy it has been dropped. The 2.5% vehicle tax is very important to my constituents, and I'm very happy it has been dropped. The excise duty on edible oils is very important to my constituents, and I'm happy it has been dropped. The money transfer and foreign exchange tax has been dropped. The eco tax on diapers and sanitary pads, which have been dropped, is important to my constituents. And Honorable Speaker, the housing levy, the NSSF and NHIF, which is now a tax deductible item, is also very important, which means those who are salaried will not have a lot of taxes to pay. And Honorable Speaker, the proposal to amend Data Protection Act for KRA to access our data has been removed. That is also an important area to my constituents. And Honorable Speaker, the 16% VAT on supply of solar and lithium batteries is important because it promotes uptake of clean energy for my constituents and the rest of Kenyans. Honorable Speaker, on the divide side, I'm also happy that 18 billion has been set aside for the employment of 46,000 JSS teachers on PNP, on permanent and pensionable terms. And I'm also happy that the appropriations bill also is going to fund another 20,000 JSS teachers, coming from an area where teachers is a challenge to our schools. I'm very happy that this is happening. And 1 billion for restocking livestock that have been destroyed is also very important for my constituents, and I'm happy.
This bill, because, Madam Speaker, Kenyans are feeling the weight of being in Churchill. For a nation to try to tax itself into by the handle. Madam Speaker, the problem we have in this country, Madam Speaker, is not about taxes. Kenya is not paying taxes. Kenyans pay taxes, Madam Speaker. But the problem is this money is not used properly. There's a lot of wastage in the government. There's a lot of corruption, and the corruption these days